What is good, family? High value basketball. We are back once again. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. You know the drill. Today we are talking about the Portland Trailblazers and doing a roster breakdown for the squad. Yo, I gotta say, this is definitely an interesting squad. A lot of folks have been kind of dragging them, saying that they haven't done too much to improve the team. I do agree to a certain extent. However, I gotta say though, this team is gonna be somewhat surprising if they do gel together and they do get their defensive rotations intact. If these two things do take place, I can see them being back in the playoffs in a place where people really didn't expect them to be very honest. But hey, let's get right into it. So starting right off the top here, we got Keldon Blevins. So Keldon Blevins, cool name, but he's a third-year bench guy. He only averaged 2 points a game. He's a 6'4" small forward, so he's undersized. So I really don't see him doing too much on the squad. So hopefully, he surprises somebody, busts through the rotation, but I really don't see that happening. We got Greg Brown III. He's a second-year power forward. He only shot 42% from the floor. That is not good, considering he's a power forward, should be playing closer to the rim, and you can't even crack 50%, bro. I don't know. So, he's on the squad, probably just really be there for a practice guy. He might get a little better, given gelling with the team, but I really don't see much coming from it. Chris Dunn, he's a seventh-year guy. He's basically become a journeyman. But with the with the Trailblazers, he definitely had his second best year field goal wise. And one of his best scoring years, honestly. Well, not best, excuse me. It was more of a suboptimal. It wasn't his best year. He was a little bit below average, but he still had a solid run with the team, though. So you give him a little bit more integration. Now that McCollum is gone, he might actually be able to find a little bit more footing for himself. Of course, like I say, McCollum was a two guard, but just simply saying they got a lead guard off the team, so that should open up more opportunities for him to hit the floor. So let's see what he does with it. Then you got Drew Ebanks. Ebanks, he's actually a 6-year player, and he shot 64% from the field, which is definitely pretty good. And this is now his second year with Portland, so definitely give him some time to gel. And see how he can particularly grow. Of course, they got him at a huge bargain, so it's not going to hurt to throw him out there and see what he could do. But I actually think he can improve if you've given the correct opportunity. Then you got Jeremy Grant. Of course, this was the big offseason acquisition, the biggest thing that they have done. He came over from the Pistons. I actually see Jeremy Grant having a comeback here a little bit. He was down just a little bit, with the Pistons. But that was honestly because he was biting off more than he can chew. The dude wanted to be the man on a team and all of that foolishness. And really, we find out that he's really more so if we're talking about championship level team, he's definitely a number 3 guy. But as far as a playoff team, he can be a number 2. And so he's definitely going to be challenged to fill that role, fill McCollum's shoes. So I definitely feel like, though, he can have a pretty good run with it, because this team is going to be constructed in a way to where he's going to have plenty of opportunities to put shots up and get to the rim and all of those wonderful things that he does. Josh Hart. So I got to say, Josh Hart is going to be in the second year in Portland, and he's going to continue to do his thing. From what I've always seen from him, he's been a pretty consistent guy. Like, he has very good defensive intensity. And as far as his shooting, of course, he had a second best year from 3, actually, when he was with Portland, shooting just a hair over 37%. So I can see him continue to do so. This is somewhat of a shoot-happy team, or at least it can be, as far as getting that identity together, following behind Dame. So I can honestly see him chucking up a nice handful of shots, considering how the team is constructed. Then we got Elijah Hughes. He's also a second-year player with Portland. You're going to see that's a theme here. Portland has a lot of second-year, third-year players on the team. Of course, that's why they had, somewhat of a down year, of course, trading away McCollum. It seemed like, this team was basically going to start tanking and things of that nature. But I honestly feel like with players like Hughes and, like I said, the assortment of players, the second-year players that they have, these dudes are really going to gel and get better. Because the dude, this guy particularly, You say he only averaged 3 points for the season and he barely cracked the rotation. However, I do feel like he's going to get more opportunities to particularly play due to the roster shakeup. So I do think that 3 is going to bump up to 7. Hopefully his defensive intensity kicks in because that's really what they're going to probably try to lean on him for more so than anything. Keon Johnson. Yeah, we skipping over Joe Ingles if y'all are watching the screen. He ain't even on the team. Good job, ESPN. But Keon Johnson, he's in his 3rd year. See that running theme? These 2nd, 3rd year players. And see, Keon Johnson, he had certain expectations, coming from the Clippers. And he really didn't crack the rotation that much because, that Clippers squad is like super deep. That's one of the deepest teams in the NBA. Like they got so many players over there. So, of course, him being a young cat, he's not really going to get too many opportunities to shine. However, I do think he has an opportunity to deliver. The man shot 35% from 3-point. So give him some more shots. Let's see if he can put up more numbers. You dig? Then we got Ishmael Kamagate. He's a French player. He's coming out of France. He's pretty agile, but he's not the best finisher. It's kind of a current theme with these French centers. He kind of has a little bit of Rudy Gobert in him where he's a little awkward on the court as far as his movements are concerned. But in that same kind of regard, I will say he's a little better than Gobert. He can finish around the rim way better than Gobert can. At least it's not as making it look as awkward as Gobert does. But that same kind of just that same kind of somewhat unnatural presence, he definitely has that. But in that similar kind of way with Gobert, because it's so weird and kind of unnatural, it may throw opposing teams off. And then he could use his quirkiness, to block some shots, get a good defensive presence. And like I said, he's a legit lob threat. So we're going to see what he could potentially do, see if he could crack the rotation. And of course, Damian Lillard. Do we even need to say anything extra? Come on, it's Damian Lillard. We already know who that is. Of course, he was injured, so he didn't, get a full run last year. But him coming off injury, hopefully having a good postseason recovery and all of those things, definitely going to see him have a monster year, at least as far as his individual stats are concerned, because they're going to be leaning on him real hard this year. So definitely see Dame, put up something close to 30 points a game, yo. So it should be fun to watch. Nasir Little, he's a 4th-year player. He plays near the basket, basically. He plays near the rim. And that's a little, not say odd, because again, he's only a 6'5" small forward. So to see him play, that style of basketball, we got to see if it's going to be effective. We got to see if it's going to be useful on the team. Because again, we're in this shooter era. So seeing a dude who, doesn't necessarily shoot the ball like that, like say most of his stuff is, 15 feet in, we got to see how that's going to play out because he's not a center and he's not necessarily a power forward. So hopefully he can integrate himself, though, find himself a good spot on the rotation, and let's see what he does. Ben Mclemore. Man, Ben Mclemore had always had promise. He definitely clearly was hyped up. Clearly he wasn't the player hyped up to be. His run with the Kings was probably his best stint. Of course, he was with the Lakers and stuff. He was with Houston. And it's just that weird journeyman thing with him. Like, the dude gets on the team and he's good and he's solid and he's not a minus. But then he gets traded or then he gets waived or just not re-signed. So, it's good to see him actually get another run with the squad here. So let's see if he actually, can make some waves, yo. I want to see him try to make some waves because I really do like Ben Mclemore for what it's worth. Yusuf Nurkic. Again, y'all should already know Nurkic, man. Dude is a monster. I feel like he's slightly underrated, to be honest, because he's an offensive-minded center. And offensive-minded centers, they get a bad rap. It's like everybody expects him to block shots and, get all these rebounds and be a big defensive presence and yada, yada, yada. Like, nah, not every center, has to be in that particular mold. Of course, it's always good to have one who, is defensive-minded. But someone like Yusuf, someone like Yusuf, like the dude is legit. Like, every time I've watched him play, he's consistent. He's a big body, and he can put the ball in the hoop, man. So I definitely know he's going to have a monster year this year as well. They're going to be leaning on him heavy, with the roster changes, and I can definitely see him being big for him. Gary Payton II. This is the other big acquisition that the team has made. This was definitely, I didn't see it coming, shall I say, when it first happened, because, thinking that he's just going to re-sign with the Warriors and all of that stuff. But hey, yo, I'm excited to see him on the team. Will he become a player in the starting lineup? That's what I want to see. I want to see how they do this with him because, of course, he was a bench player with the Warriors. But with Portland, they're a little bit less talented. So will he crack the starting five? I do see it will be a battle, so to speak, between him and maybe, where's he at? Where the heck did he go? Are you kidding me? Come on, y'all. What the boy name at? See, I hate this drawing blanks and stuff. Josh Hart. Good Lord. So, yeah, I definitely see Gary Payton in competition with Josh Hart for the starting position because, again, they both play defense. Of course, Gary Payton clearly is more known for it, but it's about the team's identity. Are they going to be more of a defensive-minded team or are they going to be more of an offensive-minded team? So based on how they're going to try to carve themselves out, I could see him in the starting five. But if not, he could definitely be, a good 6 or 7 man on that rotation for that shooting guard position. That is for sure. We got Reggie Perry. Reggie Perry. I really don't have much on Reggie Perry, to be honest. Actually, I take that back because Reggie Perry actually is not even on the squad. That's why. Whoops. Oliver Starr. Oliver Starr, he's a second-year player. That same narrative here. We got these second-year players. He's really a shooting big, which is kind of crazy. Like he's listed as center. He's 7 feet tall, but the dude can shoot the three. He can stretch the floor. So in a similar kind of thing here, we see them going in more of an offensive minded situation here. So I definitely want to see what Avalier can do, man. Because Sarge, as far as his highlight tape and his highlight reel shows, like the dude can get buckets, and again, he's got that shooter's touch. So at 7 feet, I want to see what he does. That is for sure. Shadayne Sharp, yo, he's gonna be legit. Of course, he's dealing with a shoulder injury right now, so he may not, start the season for the team. Not entirely sure yet, but we got to see how he recovers. But the dude is a high flyer. My goodness, dude can jump all the way out the gym. It's freaking ridiculous, man. And that's always a good thing to have. You always need some type of highlight player, someone to pump the team up. And it looks like, too, though, that he's like a solid player. It's not that he can only jump out the gym. As far as the comparisons are concerned, people kind of say he's a lightweight Paul George, in that kind of frame of character. So I could see that as well. And if he, lives up to any part of that potential, just in his own right, in his own play style, that's going to be a huge plus for this team, for sure. Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons, come on, yo. The dude is hot in the streets right now, man. Is he gonna develop into a second option? We don't know yet, because again, he got the opportunity to shine because Dame was out. So now that Dame is back in the rotation, how are they gonna integrate him? Because my issue is those are two small players, so you can't have a tiny backcourt and expect to win in the NBA. So I don't know, how they gonna figure that out. So are they gonna have Simons and Lillard, on the court at the same time? It's possible, but it's like I said, defensively, they're going to have to have some type of mastermind team on a string situation to make that work. But dude is going to be legit. Dude's going to put up numbers. I'm with it. Jabari Walker. He basically plays a 5. As far as his style, he plays like a 5. He plays near the rim. Most of his baskets are at the rim, like dunks, layups, things of that nature. So, we got to see how he integrates because, he doesn't get to the rim himself as far as the highlight tapes. He seems like he, catches a lot of passes, a quick 1-2 dribble, then boom, explodes to the rim. So we got to see how he can do that because he can't necessarily get his own points, but he can be, facilitated too. So not necessarily a bad thing. We just got to see how that'll work out on the squad. Trenton Wofford, power forward. He's a second-year guy as well. There's that same thing. And similar notion, he just plays around the rim. It seems like Portland does have a lot of guys who duplicate, certain play styles. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because, again, it creates competition within the team, and then it forces them, to put the best player on the court of that particular style. So considering he's in his second year, like I say, plays around the rim, he's going to get a little bit more seasoning, a lot more playing time. I definitely can see him continuing to be that finisher style player for him. And we got Brandon Williams. Brandon Williams is his second year. He's a legit point guard in my opinion, just as far as his play style, because he's a facilitator. We got Dame. who's the shooter. Like I said, we got Simons, who's also a shooter. So, who's going to be that Rondo style, that CP3 style of, kind of point guard. And that is him. So it's definitely a good pickup for them, to have him in the roster, let him get a little bit better, get his NBA legs up. He's a pick and roll, genius, at least as far as it's worth, for the amount of time he's been in the league. So definitely could see him, mixing up rotations and mixing up the play style for the team, because he can be used as the facilitator to get the Warfords and the Walkers on those open shots at the rim, because those are the guys who get, to the rim. He can pick and roll them and pass them some nice lobs, some nice bounce passes, and all they got to do is finish. So I could see him, doing the daggone thing. Justice Winslow. Man, Justice Winslow, he's an ambiguous case to me. He's one of those dudes, from that era, got overhyped. And he's really just kind of one of those weird Swiss Army knife players. And the Swiss Army knife player, unfortunately, they either become, superstars, or they become Justice Winslows, where they just don't really do anything. They're not bad. They're not good. They're just kind of there, and they're just taking up presence and, eating up minutes. And, hopefully, you can depend on them, in certain situations. But they don't necessarily move the needle in any particular direction. And unfortunately, I don't really see him doing that this year. He can definitely, like I say, take minutes off of dudes, get guys some rest. But as far as him just being like a major big time contributor, nah, he just is who he is. And then lastly, Cody Zeller, second year with Portland. He's going to be the backup center. It's funny. I feel like it's funny because he came out from, what is that? From the Hornets. Cody Zeller, I feel like he's just in that exact same Plumlee mold who currently plays for the Hornets. Like, he's this, this center who's really tall, has a good presence, but no real major impact. But for whatever reason, he can make a highlight that you never saw coming. And because he can keep doing that, he's always going to find him a spot on the team. So there he is. He's going to be backing up Nurkic and doing whatever he can. As far as the starting five goes in the depth chart, of course, I see Dame. We got Nurkic. We got Jeremy Grant. We got Dame, Nurkic, Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons. And then, like I said earlier, if they're going to be an offensive-minded team, they're going to go with Josh Hart. But if they're going to be defensive-minded team, they're going to go with Gary Payton. So we definitely going to see how they put this rotation together and see how the starting five develops. And I honestly see them as a playoff team. I think they're going to be punchy. A lot of people are not going to see them coming. Like I say, Dame is going to do Dame. And Jeremy Grant is going to have him a bounce back year. I actually see all of that happening. And they're going to be, I'm going to say they'll be a 6 seed. I honestly feel like they could be a 6 seed just outside of the play-in tournament. And they're going to do their thing. Portland Trailblazers 2022-2023. High value basketball. Catch you next time.